Yeah, welcome to my live stream session. I'm just making sure everything works as it should. If you see any technical issues, please let me know because, as you know, that might happen. Happens a lot, especially lately. Just making sure everything works. And of course, if you guys are in here, please let me know because, as you know, that might happen. Happens a lot. Right. Especially lately. It is a little dark in here, isn't it? But yeah, whatever. We're here to see my cool VFX work and not my beautiful, beautiful face. Isn't that right? Anyways, let me make sure I see all the comments. Set up here. Nice. All right, let's get started. We're working on a new scene today, and I didn't want to take this scene too seriously. That's why we're just playing around a little. I'm just making a new folder. Let's call it Cage Dance. I just downloaded a new scene or like a green screen clip. I did not record that one myself. I just downloaded from the internets. So yeah, let's get started. And again, let me know when you guys are in here so I know. Just say hello, then I know that you guys are in here, and then we can get started together. Because I don't really feel like doing that by myself. Anyways, it's like 8 p.m. here in LA. Um, had a long day, but now it's time to get some personal work done. I hope you guys watched today's video I uploaded. It's about my raining scene. How to make rain in Blender. If you're interested in how to do that, gotta check it out. After the live stream, of course. Cage Dance. So I saw this beautiful clip, and I figured, why don't I use that to make some cool Blender scene. Nope. There you go. Susie is, of course, in the live stream because she never sleeps. She never does. Guten Morgen. Ja, wir legen jetzt gerade los. I have to stick to English because so everybody understands me. But yeah, we're gonna work on this little scene here. I don't fully know. Hey Jordan, how's it going? So I don't fully know yet how the scene is gonna look. I just wanted to improvise a little and see how it goes. I have like a vague idea because I have this stock footage of this woman dancing. I thought it'd be cool if we put her into some kind of layer, like a maybe like a cage where she dances in a cage or something like that. But we'll see. First of all, we need to key out this footage. I'm gonna wait with this a little bit, and yeah. I probably should put the link of this live stream also everywhere. Just gonna post it everywhere in Discord in my stories. Let's take this picture. Hold on, let's take this picture. Live right now. There you go. Make Give it a link. There we go. Done. Yeah, so we can get a few more people in here. That's what it looks like. Awesome. Cool. All right. Let's get started. If you guys have any questions along the way, please let me know. But other than that, I'll try to explain everything I do here as slowly as possible. And like I said, if you have any questions, please let me know. So we are in DaVinci here. If you prefer me doing that in After Effects, I can also do the same process in After Effects. I just try to get used to DaVinci more. But yeah, either way, it's basically the same idea. This is green screen footage. You can see it was already keyed out and just put like a clean green background in here. Stock footage websites, they do that sometimes. Just to make it easier for us and consumers to use that footage. So the key should be very simple. In DaVinci, what you need is a delta keyer. This is basically key light. In After Effects, you use a delta keyer here. And in DaVinci, everything works with nodes, just like in Blender. And once I put this keyer in here, when I click on this guy, or I can have one on or two on the keyboard, and I have it on both screens now. Hold on, let me pull up the big monitor. There we go, so you see better. So now I have this keyer on both of those windows, and on my left one I usually go with just the alpha, so now I can see what's transparent and what isn't. And right now nothing is transparent. That's why it's just white. Everything what's black is going to be transparent. So when I pick this picker here, take it, and now I can see what's going to be transparent and what isn't. And I want her to be not transparent. So all I have to do is just pick a green here. And technically, this is basically done. Let me zoom in here just to see if everything looks fine. And yes, we have a little bit of transparency here in the hair, which is fine. And also here we can see very well, okay, she is a little bit grayed out here, but we can just increase the contrast just a little bit, just a tiny bit here. Do it, there you go. But mostly on the white side. Clean foreground, clean background, and blur the edges a little. Yeah, that should do. I also was thinking, because I don't want to show that much nudity on my social media posts, so I'm gonna mainly show her silhouette dancing. Spill method, well done. Okay. And that's basically it. Now I have a clean background, or a cutout background. And again, if you want me to do this process also in After Effects, please let me know, because I'm more than willing to do that for you guys who are using After Effects instead of DaVinci, which is probably quite a lot. Now I have to export this out with an alpha. First of all, I need to see, okay, this is 28 seconds long. My scene is probably not going to be that long, but it's always better to have more than less. I have a, what is called a preset for my green screen videos, because in my preset here, I have, I can export alpha. And that's important to export alpha, because if without the alpha, it would just be a black background, which I don't want. I want a transparent background in 16-bit. The codec is GoPro Cineform. Don't ask me why I use that, because I just saw it in a tutorial and have been using it ever since. There might be better codecs actually, but I've been just using that and it works. Now I just have to give it a folder where I want to export it to. Move this microphone a little so I can see better. Blender experiments, page dance, just called green screen dance. Add to render queue and render it out. It's going to take probably like 20 seconds. Yeah, so that's the deal here. And all we did so far is just getting rid of the green. So then when we start a Blender scene, we can just implement this, import this without the green screen and build our scene around that. That's the idea. Any questions so far? Let me know. I'm just gonna get a drink real quick. Cool. This is done. I know you guys haven't been asking for it, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I'm gonna start After Effects, and I'm gonna do the same process in After Effects, just for everyone out there, because I'm gonna leave this live stream up as well. So for everyone watching this later on, not while we're live, you have something out of it too. So usually what I do is this is my my folder where I have my videos, and what I usually do, if I just work on one single clip, I drag and drop this clip onto the new composition. Forgot I have to bring it into After Effects first, and then I bring it just onto the new composition. Jesus Christ, why doesn't it? Okay, right click, new comp from selections. That's how it works. And now here, usually my process is a little different. So you do After Effects layers too. No, usually I don't use After Effects anymore. Just for rotoscoping sometimes. I just show After Effects for everyone who is using After Effects to make it, to explain it for everyone. Yeah. Anyways, usually my workflow is I duplicate my layer here. So with Command or Control D, I have the same layer on top of each other. I just mute the lower layer because we don't need it right now, and then on the top layer, go on right click, Effect, keying, key light 1.2. I'm sorry if I'm a little rusty because I don't use After Effects that much anymore. So now I'm gonna use this picker here. Exactly the same thing. I pick a green very close to my subject. Make sure to zoom in here. You can see the video quality of this is not great. It's very pixelated. That's what happens if you use stock footage and don't shoot your own, but it's fine. But here, under final result, I'm gonna go on screen match. Here I can basically see my alpha. To make sure everything what is white is gonna be white, and everything what is black is perfectly black. So I don't have to touch the black one. I see a little fringe there on the right. So I'm gonna turn this black one just a little bit. So that should be all right. Now, the idea is, the magic here is that I'm gonna use the bottom layer, this one. I'm gonna just use, from the top layer, I'm just gonna use the mask of it. I'm gonna do it with that. And I'm gonna use the Luma matte. It also gives me like this green fringe, which I'm gonna solve in a second. I'm gonna go on my bottom layer, right click, Effect, keying, and Advanced Spill Suppressor. And that's gonna remove my fringe here. And now on my top layer, I can soften the edges a little bit just to make it a little cleaner. Under softness, see, works way better. Cool. And that's basically it. Of course, I should go through my footage to see everything is all right. And since the background is black right now, I can turn on the toggle transparency grid so I can actually see how my edges are, you know, because you don't want the fringe, so the softness is a little too harsh. Go a little lower on that. I could go shrink grow a little bit negative here. That way I can make sure the edges look fine. But like I said, the way we're gonna use this scene is gonna be like mostly the silhouette of her. So I'm not too worried about the details. Anyways, now it's time to render this. Just like in DaVinci, we have to export this with a transparent background. So I'm gonna go under Composition, Pre-Render. Under here, I have a preset, High Quality with Alpha. When we go onto those settings, you can actually see what it does. The format is QuickTime. Under format options, I have Apple ProRes 4444. That's the important one. And under channels, RGB plus alpha. That's the important one. If I don't select this, if I just have RGB, I'm not going to get any transparency information. And then I can give it a name. I don't need to export it, but then you render it, and then you're going to get the same result like in DaVinci. Okay, that's basically it. Let's save this. Let's give it a name, Cage Green Screen. Any questions so far? If you have any questions, please let me know. If I go too fast, please let me know also. If I go too slowly, also let me know, because I don't want to bore you guys. All right, now it's time to fire up Blender, and let's try to make something cool. So always RGB and alpha, yes, because only with the alpha means transparency. That's what alpha stands for, okay? You don't have an alpha, you don't have a transparency. How about I'll just show you, if you render it wrong, what's gonna happen? How about that? I think it's a great idea. I never do things wrong in my tutorials because I don't really have time for it. I don't want to waste your guys' time. But let's go here. Instead of RGB alpha, I just go RGB. And now I'm just gonna name it, hold on. Page dance, green screen dance. I'm gonna call it green screen dance wrong. Okay, so keep in mind, I'm doing RGB instead of RGBA, RGB alpha. Exporting this right now. The interesting thing is to see is that After Effects takes longer to render than DaVinci. It's an interesting point. And now we're gonna have a side-by-side comparison. Here, this is, by the way, how my green screen scenes, my Blender scenes start. So I'm gonna just import. By the way, if you want to import the plane, the green screen video as a plane, I'm gonna import this. The first I'm gonna import is the correct one. So I'm gonna go Shift A, Image, Mesh Plane, go on Cage Dance. Okay, okay, this is the proper one, this is the wrong one. Okay, I'm gonna go with the proper one first. I'm gonna import this. This is what it looks like. Let me get this next to him. All right, see, transparent background. I can see through this, okay? You can see that. Now, on the other side, I'm gonna import the one without the alpha. That's this one, green screen dance wrong. And you can see it has a black background. So all the work I did, keying out the green screen and all that, is basically for nothing, because I exported this without an alpha channel, so I don't have any transparency. When I look into the material, the alpha is connected to the alpha, just like on this video, on this plane, alpha is also connected to the alpha. If I disconnect this, it's going to look the same way, but this one does have an alpha. So I can connect this to the alpha, so I do have transparency on this one. That's why I'm using this one. And this one can go to hell. Delete. All right, Did you understand this part? If you have any questions, again, please let me know, so we can figure problems out together. Okay, very important. I'm not doing this for fun here. I'm doing this so you guys can learn from my mistakes I make by accident, learn from my mistakes I make on purpose. So in the end, we're all gonna be smarter. All right. Okay. If I don't see any questions, I'm just gonna keep going. Jordan says looking pretty well. Cool. So, now I always mention that in my tutorials, but I'm going to mention that here too if you watch like my content for the first time. My Blender scene always starts with a 3D scan person in here, right? The reason for that is because most scenes, they start with just a cube. This is like most scenes start, just a cube and nothing else in it. You see, this is what it looks like. But mine starts with a 3D person because when I imported this, for example, it looked like that. It was like small, and if I have a 3D person in here, this guy is to scale. When I look at his information, when I go under item, I can see his dimensions. He's 178 meters tall. Okay, so that's basically like 5'9" or 5'10", 5'11", something like that. So I know the size of this guy. Okay, if this woman stands here right now, I see that she is not to scale. She's way shorter than him. So when I start modeling like a whole world, whatever I'm trying to do, I want the world to be in scale. I don't want it to be smaller or bigger. You're asking how to get a 3D person. There's different ways. Either I got this guy from Blender Kit. So I have Blender Kit. So this is a plugin where you can download 3D scenes or 3D elements. You can have HDRIs, models, all kinds of things. So they have free stuff or not free stuff. So I'm going to go on free first, and I want to go on human scan. I can just type it in here. I have different examples of people in here, or even not people. So the search engine is not that optimized. When I just go human, so I have different human models, and just make sure when you import something that it's also to scale. Looks about right. So now I have another scan here, another woman. So it doesn't really matter which one you go with. I just always start with this one because he's wearing pink. So yeah, if I was you, I would import a human model in there and have nothing else in your scene, maybe a camera. And once your scene is set up with how many windows you want, like for example, my layout looks like this, okay? I probably would, yeah, so I have my 3D camera here. This is where I look through the 3D camera. My 3D viewport is here, so I can here and usually look around. Here I don't look around. This is just where I position my camera. Here I look around. On the bottom left here, I have my shader editor. On my top left, I have my what's it called? My asset browser. I have like more HDRIs and stuff like that here, but I'm probably gonna change this to my compositor because I use my compositor more than my my polyhaven. But anyways, this is usually how I start my scenes. Any scene, okay, without her, of course. She's always gone. And also my settings here, everything I have here, for example, I always use like a certain amount of samples, for example, like this. And all my settings here, I adjust everything just once. Everything what I believe, that's how I want to start my scene, like any scene. Like, and then when I think I'm ready, I go on File, Defaults, and save startup file. That means every time you open a new Blender file, It's going to open just like that. Okay. Just make sure you don't mess anything up and then save the startup file, because then you're fucked. But you can always just defaults and can you actually restore your startup file? I'm not sure, but worst comes to worst, you can just re-download Blender or delete the startup file. I'm not sure. I've never tried it, but anyways, I highly recommend just set up your Blender file once, like even with like GPU, compute, like what I have, for example. If you have a graphics card, like set up everything here, then save your startup file. And if you want to know more about my render settings, then let me know. I can go through all of them. But like I say, usually I don't go through all of them because I set it up once and I never touch it again. Here and there I make minor adjustments, but usually, like fast GI approximation, sometimes I turn on, sometimes I turn off. That's basically one of those things. Or like motion blur, I usually start every scene without motion blur. Where is it? Somewhere here, motion blur. I usually have it off in the beginning, and when I render, when I export this thing, my scene, then I turn it back on. All right, anything else? Not really. Okay, so I was saying I start with one 3D scan of a person, then I know I can scale up my green screen person, basically the same height, or she's a woman, so she's probably a little shorter than him. So I just have to trust my best judgment. So I'm making sure she is standing on the ground like that. Cool. Okay. That's basically how I start every scene. Now I'm still looking through the camera. At some point I have to set my camera and leave it alone. I am gonna, for now, I'm gonna turn him off because I don't need him anymore, at least for now. I'm gonna just bring her to the origin point of my scene. Let's just save because I didn't save this file yet. Let's go to Blender Experiments, Cage Dance. Let's call this guy Cage Dance. Okay. Now, when you work with green screen footage, there's like one thing you always have to consider. That is like the camera perspective, the angle, and the focal length is pretty much set. Okay, this is like something I can't really be creative. So if I didn't shoot the footage myself, which in that case I didn't, I have to guess a lot. So I'm gonna open the scene here, pause, and now I'm gonna try to estimate how high this camera was. That's my first thing. So I see the feet are here. The camera is somewhere on like belly button level, maybe like boobs, like somewhere here. This is the height of the camera. Okay, this is like the first thing I try to determine. So when I'm here, I'm gonna bring this camera to somewhere of the level of the chest. So right now it's a little too high. So I'm gonna go under Z location. I'm gonna go a little lower, like that. Okay. So right now, also the camera is tilted too much. So I basically would need to tilt it like this, because I'm trying to match this, the frame with the camera frame. Okay, I'm gonna try to match this. So what I'm gonna do is bring the camera on the y-axis closer. I'm trying to match that. Turn it a little. The thing is, it doesn't have to be exact, but just for the beginning, I try to be as accurate as possible, because then the green screen is just going to feel better. So I'm going to bring it a little closer. Doesn't have to be perfect, just as close as I can, like that. Now, another thing that's like something I really don't know and I can only guess is what focal length were they using shooting this? To me, it looks like could be like a 35 millimeter, maybe a 50 millimeter, something like that. So I'll just stick with, I'm gonna go in my camera settings. Let's go with 35. That also brought the position a little back, but that's fine. I'm just gonna correct it. Well, it didn't bring the position back, it just looks further away if it's like such a wide angle. All right, so I just adjusted the camera as good as I could. Usually, when you shoot your own footage, you write down everything you did. How high was the camera from the ground? What focal length were you using? What frame rate, of course, but also sensor size. So you can adjust all those settings here as exact as possible. Of course, there is a little bit of freedom and leeway in editing and 3D animation, but generally speaking, you want to be as accurate as possible. And if you don't shoot your footage yourself, someone shoots the footage for you, then you also have to write down those things or tell them to write it down for you, so you don't run into any trouble. All right, this part is done. So one thing I always do, yeah, basically the easiest way to work with that is if you want to move your camera, which I probably will because I'm going to have some kind of moving shot, especially then you want this plane to always face the camera, because what you don't want that the camera's like maybe going sideways and suddenly your green screen is, you know, flat, because it's just a 2D image. It's not going to look right, correct? So what I'm going to do is put a constraint on your green screen plane, and then you can do that under constraints. I'm going to have my plane selected, add constraint, track to, and under target object, I'm just going to select by camera. It's going to flip on the other side because by default it's negative Z selected. You want positive Z. So now what's happening is when I look at this plane here, if I move my camera around, my plane is always rotating with the camera. It's always facing the camera. It doesn't matter where the camera goes. And that's the important part. So even when I have a little bit of like a push in, or it's slightly the camera's going around or something like that, I will never see this plane from the side. Okay, that part is important. Otherwise, that would look weird. Okay. So again, I'm going to show it here. It doesn't matter where the camera goes. The plane turns, rotates with the camera. Very important. This workflow changes a little if the camera is actually tracked, or not. If the camera is tracked, if you have a moving camera shot, you shot and then you track it in Blender, the workflow is a little different, but we're not going to work on that today. So this one is a little simpler, but I still try to make it as accurate as possible. So again, if you have any questions, if I go too fast, please let me know. Yeah. Okay, the next one. We have to work on the material. You can do that in the end or now. It doesn't really matter. So generally, by default, it comes like that. This is in your shader editor. This is where the shader editor is. This is where the material is. If that wasn't here, it would be just a black plane. Okay, so this gives us the information. This here, when I just plug this into the output, this is what it looks like. But we also have the alpha. That's why we need this principal BSDF to actually separate the image of the background. That's why we have a base color and an alpha. We also have other materials here, like metallicness, roughness, and all kinds of funny things, which usually usually we don't need, okay? There's different examples where we do need this, or it's easier. This actually might be one of those examples, but we can just, in case we do need it later, we can just restore this. But generally speaking, I would just delete this principal BSDF and create our own material. And we do that the following. So I'm going to go really step by step through this so you really understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing this, okay? So first, we need to show this image. There's different ways to show this image. There's different nodes for this. Emission is one of those nodes. When I plug this into the color and this into the surface, by the way, the shortcut for this is Shift, Control Shift, and I just click on it, then this goes into the surface output. Okay. So now, emission means that it actually emisses light. Okay. So it doesn't take light, it emisses light. It makes light. It's basically like a light source. It's like a light bulb. You know, this is what it is right now. The problem, or like the advantage of that is that you have full control over what this looks like. Okay, like because it doesn't take any light. So even if I have a green light here right next to it, it's not going to change this color. So this is a advantage, but also a disadvantage. Okay, the advantage is you have full control. The disadvantage is all settings, like everything what you do with the lighting, has to be manually adjusted to that. Let's say I have a red light here, but she's not red. I would need to make a node, RGB, RGB curves, go to red. Red is this one, and make her more red. Okay, as a stupid example. Not doing it right now, but just in case you're confused. All right, if I had, instead of this node, let me delete this. If I had a diffuse node, it also shows the color, but it also takes lighting information. Okay, so right now I don't have any light here. If I did, if I had a red light here, it would illuminate this emission, this plane as well, which has another advantage, but the disadvantage is you have less control over this color. Okay. I hope you understand the difference. For now, we're gonna be working with an emission node. I might change it later, but for now, let's do that. So I'm gonna connect the color of my video. I'm gonna connect this with color and this with the surface. So that shows me the actual video. Okay, so far I hope it's clear. Now, how do we get our black background? Like, how do we get it? How do we make it go away? So we need this alpha information here. If I plug in alpha into color, I do see the black and white mask because that's all the it's all this alpha does, is making a black and white mask. But how do we use this to make this background transparent? You might have guessed it, with a transparency node. So I'm gonna, with Shift A, going to make a transparency node. So don't ask me why, but transparency has to be plugged on top. The way I remember it usually is like, because it's transparent, it's apparent, it's on top of the child. That's how I remember it. I don't know how it really makes sense, but transparent goes to the top. Now with Control Shift right click, I drag from one to the other to make a mix shader node. Okay. If you forget the shortcut, you can also just look for mix shader node. There it is. Same deal. But that's usually a fast way to Control Shift right click and you just make a node. Okay. And it automatically connects. So like I said, the emission has to be on the bottom. The transparent has to be on top. The color of our video has to be in the color of our emission. And the alpha has to go into the factor of the mix shader. You can basically factor, it was kind of hard for me to understand what factor does, but basically you can just replace factor with mask it also works. So this is the alpha, this is the mask, goes into the mask of the mix shader. All right. Right now it's all black. You might be confused. Why is it black? Because mix shader is not connected to the surface. Once you connect this, again, you can connect it like this, or Control Shift, left click, and now we have a beautiful cutout background. We have a foreground person with the color. I can make her brighter or darker, and this is what this thing is for, which I usually leave it on 1, all right? And that's our basic. So, and now I can see through the video that she's like dancing, super cool, very exciting stuff. Now, we got to be a little more creative. Like, where is she dancing? Why is she dancing? And so on. So my idea was to put her into a cage where lots of disgusting men can look at her. All right. So how do we make a cage? There's many ways. Usually, if there wasn't a tutorial or like a live stream, I would just type in cage and see what comes out here. And this is exactly the kind of cage I would be looking for. Not like this, but more like this. It's like hanging from the ceiling somewhere. That's pretty cool. It's like a bird cage. Yeah, if that was big, that would work too. So this is the kind of cage I would usually go for. But let's just try to make our own cage, you know. And if you model anything, I will always recommend open up Google, type in whatever you're trying to model, go, images, and just find something you like this thing. Now I'm gonna have this open. You're not gonna see it because it's on my other screen, but just so I know what I'm going for. Hold on, I have a little trouble here. Okay, now I see it. So now I'm gonna try to model this, and actually let me have it here for now. So I'm just looking at the shape of this, and I wonder how would I make this, and I'm just trying to understand the shape of it in general, and how could I make this as easy as possible. So what I see is that it's not a cube. It's not. It doesn't resemble a cube at all. What other shapes could it be? When I go to my shapes, what I have here, is it a plane? Not really. Is it a cube? No. Circle? Also not. UV sphere? It's not a sphere. Icosphere? Not really. Cylinder? Aha. This looks like it. Now, when I add this, I can be like, okay, can you make more or less subdivisions? And I'm gonna go with like 16-ish. And that's basically pretty good already. Just making sure that the cage is big enough that she fits in there, which is like 2 meters tall. All right, that's a good first step. Let me see what this cage else is doing. Okay, I see that there's a subdivision in the center of this cage. So I'm just gonna add this. I'm gonna go in edit mode. With Control R, I can make a loop cut. I'm just gonna add this and leave it alone. Now the next part is going to be a little more difficult. Let me see, where's my image here? This part here on top, what is that? It could be like half a sphere, or I could also extrude it to the top, bring it to the center, and bevel the edges. Let me try this. I'm not a perfect modeler. I suck at modeling, so everything I do here is for the first time, but let me just try it. So I'm gonna go into the edit mode, face or like edge selection mode. So I want to select all of those edges on top. I could try to do this like this somehow, making sure I have all of them. But the safer way is just to hold Alt on my keyboard and click on one of these edges, and now all of them are selected. Now I'm gonna hit E on my keyboard and extrude it up, and maybe S scale it down. Let's go like this. Let me look at my reference again. All right, this is not bad. Let's go B to bevel it like that. It's Control B, not just B. And this is a cage now or something. Not really, because obviously this cage, oopsie, this cage you can see through. So what I want to try to do is like all those little face edges here that I just want to show them on all the faces, I want to disappear. And you might wonder, how do I do that? Do I just go ahead and delete the faces? It's kind of weird, isn't it? No, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go back to object mode, go under my modifiers, and I'm going to add a wireframe modifier. Interesting. Now I can just adjust how thick I want those things to be, something like that. And I made my own little cage. Pretty cool, right? Well, this cage doesn't have a ground right now, so I'm just gonna add a new mesh, a circle. It's the right size already. I'm gonna go in edit mode, hit F to fill it, and now it's all one. It's like closed up, but now it's still two different objects, and I want this and this to be one object. So I'm just gonna select both, shift select this, and hit Control J. And that's not going to work because the modifier. So what I'm going to do first is Control Z. I'm going to go back, apply the modifier, wireframe modifier, apply it. And now when I shift Control both, Control J, now it's one object. Perfect. And while we're here, let's just select our lady here. Shift select the cage we made and Control P to parent it together. So whenever I move my little cage here, I also move my what is it? 2D plane. And as you can see, she's always facing the camera. I hope you can see it right now. Let me zoom in a little closer. She's always facing the camera, which is going to be very helpful. All right, cool. Now we got that down. Let me look at the cage real quick if I forgot any details. Where is it? There it is. So now I could add, a little more detail here. I could add this part, but I'm going to worry about details like that once the scene, the general scene and the lighting is all done, because you don't want to add too much detail into something what you won't even see in the end. So you want to start rough and also work from foreground to background, so you don't put more work into something than necessary. Yeah. So now I have to figure out what do I do with the scene. I know that I have to keep the camera somewhat on this level. I probably can push in and push out a little. But I shouldn't go down or up, because when it goes down or up, it's going to look weird. So that the height I basically want to keep. So now I have to figure out what do I do with the rest of the scene. And I don't know, let's just start with like a big room, maybe like a dance floor. So I'm just going to start with the plane, bring this plane to the ground, zoom in out of the camera a little bit, and let's say she's hanging like a few meters above the floor. So I'm just going to make a dance floor. Let's bring it a little further back. This room could also use maybe back wall, so I'm just going to, in edit mode, select this edge here in the end, extrude it up. Okay, so I have a wall behind. Also gonna do the same thing with those two walls. Okay, now I have a room. Okay, this is cool. I might need the ceiling though, so let me just grab those two. Bring those maybe like somewhere here that the camera is right above the ceiling. Like that. I'm gonna fill it. So now we have a ceiling. This wall here, let's bring it down. Okay. Alright, so we just made a room. Now we have to figure out what do we do with this room. Let me just also figure out the dimensions. If that could be the size of a room. I guess so. I could also bring my 2D guy, my 3D character. Let me bring him to the ground. So I kind of have an idea how far up it is. So the camera could start like this, basically zoom out and reveal the rest of the room. There could be like one shot. But we'll see. Now the question is, what do I do with this? I could could make a stage. Yeah, I'll just make a stage. Let's do let's go with a cylinder. I'm gonna bring the cylinder down, make it flat. I scale it amongst all axes besides the z-axis, like that. And bring it down, bring it somewhere in the middle of the room, maybe even completely underneath her, I don't know yet. But that's a good start. I'm gonna Shift D, duplicate it, bring it a little higher, scale it down, turn it a little, apply the scale. Every time you change some scale, you want to apply it. Do it again, bring it up a little, turn it, scale it down. And again, if you have any questions about any of this, please let me know. But also, making environments like this, it's not really my expertise. It's just like, I'm just improvising right now. Yeah, just adding some extra detail. And yeah, that's something. At this point, I could even start working on the lighting, because your scenes always depend on lighting a lot. Because this might be like super dark in here and we don't even see anything, which is kind of the plan here. So let me see what I can do. Let me get some lights in here. For that, let me save. I'm gonna go to cycles. And in cycles, as you can see, it's completely black. Besides her, because I don't have any lights in here. She's the only light source I have in here. I mean light source because her material is emissive. If there was diffuse, let me show you this example again. We use a diffuse node. If color was into diffuse and that into the shader, she would be completely black because there is no light. And I might leave it like this for now. So let me get some lights in here. Shift A, light. Let's do, if it's like a nightclub, let's do some spotlights. We have one up here, right on top of the cage. Let's make it a little stronger. And since it's just one light source, it's going to look very weird in the beginning because it's just one light source. But I'm sure we can make something cool with this. Let's make another light. Let me just duplicate this. Shift Z, I'm going to bring it to the back of the room. Let's and the edge, rotate it the other direction towards the camera, towards our stage here. Just so to be distinct, let's do green. Let's make it a little stronger. Now I'm gonna duplicate it, Shift D, move it to the other direction, other side of the room, turn it towards the stage again. Let's make this one pink. Cool. And you might think that doesn't look like much. It actually looks like right now. And you'd be right. But the one thing which is missing, like the minor detail, is haze. In a club, it's very hazy. There's fog machines running, there is people smoking and all that. So once it's hazy in here, it's going to be bouncing all this light here we have. It's going to be bouncing it back and forth. How often it's going to bounce depends on the setting in the render settings, the volume. Right now it's set to 2, so the volume is going to be bouncing it twice. Usually you don't need it more than 2, but we'll see. So how do we use haze? And that's the important one. If you're watching right now, don't underestimate that, because underestimate that, because haze makes everything better, makes everything more real. Anyways, the way you make haze is Shift A, make a box, scale it up until you have most of the room or even the whole room, and plus even make sure you have the whole room and even the camera. So I'm just gonna, in edit mode, bring this further this way, bring this face further this way, so everything is inside this box. In object mode, make sure apply the scale with Control A, apply the scale. And now I'm gonna give this a new material. All right. Right now it just has the principled BSDF. We don't need it. What we do need is a volume, a principled volume. This one we connect to volume. Now it's black. Why is it black? Because our density is on 1, which is a lot. We go down with the density, we can see suddenly we see something again. So let's just go with 0.01, and that already looks better. It's still not enough light. If I just increase those light here, the strength of this light here, and this one as well, and especially this one, this definitely looks like way more interesting. And obviously we can have more lights, and we will in a second. But first I want to adjust the volume here a little. Let's do 0.1. Yeah, and this is like something to figure out. Like the more dense the volume is, the more light you need, okay? And the anisotropy, what the anisotropy does, you might be able to see it right now. The anisotropy of most hazes is 0.6 because it's backlit. If you want it to be front lit, you're going to go to a negative value, but 0.6 is the proper value what you want for most cases. And that obviously is not enough light, but that's something to figure out. We just need to give this floor here a better material, and we could also make it emissive or just add more lights. But I think I'm just going to give this floor a different material. Let me look for something. Color palette. Images. So what I'm trying to do is to find not this. I don't know what is this called. Color chart, maybe? Because I don't want them to be organized, I want them to be random. Like this. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is save this image. Yeah. I'm going to go to my folder, the Blender kit, Blender floor material. All right. And it's going to be a little tricky. So now what I'm going to do is give this floor new material. For now, it's going to be this whole thing. Hold on, let me actually go back. Let me go to edit mode. I'm going to go to materials. And since I'm in edit mode, I selected the floor here. I'm going to assign this. Also give it a new, now assign it. And now I'm going to give it a new material. And I'm going to import a image texture. Open the one we just downloaded, this. And right now I'm just going to connect it to the material output. You can see it just looks weird because I also don't want this part. I just want the checkers. You know, this. So I'm just going to, with Control T, open the mapping and texture coordinate node. And let's go to object. Let's just, I'm going to do it very roughly here. Just like, hold on. Yeah, that always takes, because you should usually UV this and do it proper. I never do it proper. Okay, like that. That's pretty good. I'm just going to make it the right size so I don't have any words on the ground. Just some colors. Alright. Right now this whole thing is selected. I didn't want this. So I'm just going to select all the other faces. And give it a new material. Assign. And under this new material, I'm just going to make it dark gray. Let's make it metallic. Roughness down, so it's just going to be shiny. And this material here on the floor material, I can go through them. This is my floor material. Instead of just going like this, I'm going to make it emissive. Emission. There we go. Now I can turn it up or down. So now the floor is actually emitting light, which is a cool effect. Now I have to give this also a material. Yeah, let's just make it ourselves, I suppose. Always like shiny materials, like that. I'm gonna select the other ones too. Just give it the same one because for now I'm lazy. But you get the idea. So I'm just gonna select all of those materials, objects, Control L, I think, link materials. Okay, now they all have the same material. Cool. We're slowly getting somewhere. Now, if I want my dancer here, either to be more visible or less visible, I can have the light maybe shift. I can even have it animated, but actually I just want the silhouette. So I'm going to have her backlit, turn it towards her. And now I have this cool silhouette of her dancing in there. So this is a pretty cool shot. And I could make it even extra special if I animate the rotation of the cage. And there's also different ways to do that, but let's I'm going to show you one. So I'm going to hover over rotation, hit I on my keyboard. Now I made a keyframe. And I just want to animate the Z rotation. So I'm just delete the Y and the X in my graph editor. And under Z here, instead of animating like that, I'm gonna use an expression, hashtag frame, and then keyboard down here. Let's do times 0.01. So that's the speed, how fast it's basically every frame, that's how fast it's moving. And that might be a good speed. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. That's pretty cool. Yeah. And now, for example, I could also animate the rotation a little bit. Oh, that's the location. Animate the rotation, put a wiggle on this so it's like moving a little bit or something like that. I'm just gonna give this keyframes, and I'm gonna go under modifiers and go under noise. Now it's gonna be very fast. You can see how fast it jiggles and jitters. I don't need it to be that fast, so I'm just gonna scale it up. Yeah, so it's like just moving slower. Maybe also a little more, a little less strength. Thing is, I have to do that for all of them individually. Thanks, Sean. Thanks for joining my beautiful live stream. For everybody who doesn't know, Sean is a very, very talented actor and stunt performer here in Los Angeles. I don't see this guy often enough, but I always support what he's doing. Very talented man. Way too good to be in my life. Cheers to you, Sean. Ah, yeah, right now I'm just trying to make it a little slower and smoother so it's not that extreme. Turn down the strength. Cheers, brother. Yeah. I'm just here on the Friday night like a goddamn loser hanging out by myself with my beautiful followers while everybody's out drinking and having fun. What a life, huh? It was definitely worth moving to Los Angeles for that. Anyway, so what I did now is just giving this modifier so I didn't have to animate the rotation of this light myself. Oh, that's the ceiling. Yeah. And now I can just think, can I copy this? Copy. I'm not sure if I can copy this to another. Can I? Yeah, I can. So now left and right are both moving. They might be moving the same way. You just watched the new Jason Statham movie. And could you have done a better job than him? Ugh. I just see that I saw that there's like a black spot here. So I need to work a little bit on this material. Material. Like that. What? Yeah, that's basically the idea here that we have as girl in there dancing. Let me see if I can see it a little better. It looks pretty cool. The problem is, I see. Gotta make sure she's actually touching the ground. So let me get in there. Oh, not get in there, but get closer here. Making sure that she is actually intersecting the ground a little, because otherwise with the shadows we're gonna have problems. There you go. See, and that's a cool thing. Even though she's a 2D plane, she still throws shadow. Alright, while we're here, let me work on those lights a little more. Let me make them a little brighter. Times 2. Can also animate. I think I can animate this value. Yeah, that doesn't do nothing. Okay, I can animate this value. How do I animate the color? Hover over here, hit I. Does it do anything? Spotlight. I don't really usually animate. Okay, I can. Maybe I can just give it also a modifier. Noise. It's uncharted territory here. I don't know if I can add, because it's green. Let me do the same thing with cycles. No, wrong. Ah, wrong. It must be noise. That should actually change the color. Yeah, there we go. Just don't know how fast it has to be. Yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to do, to not hand animate it. I just try to give it like a noise modifier so it changes the color automatically. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I guess I can't animate the green one because it's a green color, but the red one I probably can. I don't know what I'm doing here. I probably have to play around with that a little. But anyways, I just try to animate those lights a little better. Let me see if I can, if I bring this light a little higher, if it looks better or worse. Okay. Okay, I can't bring it higher, but maybe I can increase the spot size. Okay, it makes it worse. Decrease the spot size. Huh? Something like that. I bring it a little higher. Now it's like at the ceiling already. And I rotated it more. Even less. It's the silhouette I want. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, my thing here also needs some metal material, so I'm just gonna make it metallic, roughness down, make a little roughness, so now it's shiny. Yeah, right, something like that. And now let's animate the camera too. So I'm gonna show you a move how to properly animate your cameras, because what you don't want to do is like just animate your location. I very often do that if I'm like too impatient. I just animate the camera, but especially when I want to add like camera shake and whatnot, what you actually want to do is just make an empty, Shift A, go to empty. I just usually use the box for my camera. Okay, the empty is selected right now. I'm just gonna Shift select my camera, and Control C copy the location. So now the empty jumped to where my camera is. I'm gonna scale it down a little so it's like exactly where my camera is, and I'm gonna Shift and select my camera, Shift select my empty, and oh yeah, I don't see my keyboard from here. Control P, and now I parented my camera to my empty. So wherever my empty is going, this is where the camera goes, and that's how I animate my camera. So I'm gonna animate the empty instead of my camera. So I'm gonna go to my very first frame, which I think I'm gonna start further. I'm gonna push in. That's how I think the shot is gonna be cool. So I'm gonna hover over location, hit eyes, having my empty selected, not my camera, go on my last frame, and push in, hover over location, hit I. Now I made two keyframes. I'm just gonna what is it? With A, I'm gonna select them all, hit T on my keyboard, make it linear. So now it's like slowly pushing in. All right. Here, one plugin I use for camera shake. Yes, you could make the camera shake just like I made the just like how I made the spotlights move. But I have a plugin for this, Camera Shakeify, and that way I just have to select my camera, hit Camera Shakeify under the camera settings, hit just plus, and it just shakes the camera a little. This one is too much, so I'm just gonna scale it down by a lot, and the influence also by a lot. So it just shakes a little bit, so it just looks a little more real, because in CG the camera movements are perfectly smooth. In reality, it's never perfectly smooth, so you add those imperfections. That looks pretty cool. The one thing I don't like is where this light is coming from. I feel like I don't actually need some kind of light source from the ceiling here. So what if, let me just add a light, area light, bring it up. That looks like shit. Let me just double check if it looks better further back. That's not bad. I'm gonna leave it for now, but I still need some kind of light source here. Um, since we modeled everything ourselves so far, so let's just model this one too. I'm just gonna make another cylinder, bring it up here, squish it down like this. Let me isolate this, make it a little thicker, smaller. Apply the scale if you play with that. Isolate this. I just have to make sure that it's like where the light source is. So let's bring it further back. Yeah, right now I'm working on with the keyboard in my lab, so I can be closer to the microphone. So that makes workflow a little harder, but bear with me here. Okay, so this is like exactly where the light source is. Can this also make an emissive material? Remember, emissive materials, they make something bright. So I'm going to bring this up here. I also don't like how perfectly reflective the ceiling is. I need to give it some kind of maybe roughness map or something. And just like, okay, now we're talking. Okay, that's cool. Okay, let me work on this because the ceiling is just too perfectly shiny. Do I have my this? Like that. I also have like let me add an image texture. I have some what is it called, like imperfection maps. Show you what they look like, basically like that. Can I make this bigger? So it's basically just like scratches and stuff like that. It just adds like a little more detail into like all your materials. So I'm just gonna use this, connect this with roughness. You can see now I have a little bit more detail. You can see if I connect this with objects, box, I can even add a little color ramp to make it a little stronger. Color ramp, there you go. Bring the whites a little up. So now all those reflections are going to be broken up more. It's a very easy way to add some extra detail. I can even go crazy here. Let's bring this further back. Add a bump node. Bump. There it is. Add this into the height and this into normal. That gives it even more big detail. It looks like geometry. If that's too hardcore, you can just, for this one, skip the ramp and just plug it directly into height. And that just gives it a little more detail. But also maybe too much. So under strength, I'm just going to tone it down. Still too much. Just a little bit. Yeah, and this thing, I don't even mind to add this. I'm just going to copy this to my ground layer. And also add this to the roughness. Put that into the roughness. This into normal. Plug this in. This goes into the base color, but also into the emission. I'm just going to delete the emission node. I'm going to open the emission tab. Plug this into the color. Go on like 1 or so. So now this is a glowing here. That's too much. 0.1. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, something like that. Again, I'm not perfectly happy with the layout of the scene. I feel like it's just so. I don't like this. What is it? The area light in the back. Let me find it. You can find something, just look for it. Area light. Turn this off. Let me turn back on. Yeah, there's something off about the scene. But yeah, I'm gonna be working on this scene for a little longer off camera. Probably not tonight. It's like 9 p.m. and it's time to relax. But thank you guys for hanging out with me. That was a lot of fun. If you have any questions, let them know in the comments. And I'm gonna be working on a new video very soon. I just wanted to hang out with you guys real quick and see what's going on a Friday night or whatever time it is for you right now. Uh, yeah, but if you have any questions, again, let me know. Actually, since I started this whole thing, let me just tell you real quick how I would render this if it was done. It's not done yet, but let's say it is done. I'm gonna go to my render settings. I would crank this to 0.01. Max sample is 512 is cool. Optics X is cool. Albedo and normal is what I use. Light tree I turn on. I go down to my max bounces. Depending on if I have more volume in here, then I would crank this. If I have more transparency, I would transparent more. Fast eye approximation here, it's going to make a big difference if it's on or off. Right now I like it when it's on because it gives me a little more contrast. If it's off, it's a little more accurate, so it's really up to you. Susie, it's still up. It's 5 a.m. in Germany right now. Simplify I usually turn off. It makes it look worse and render faster, but usually I turn off. Motion blur I turn on. Anything else important here? Yeah, this I usually leave like this. Yeah. Oh, one thing. If you saw my video on my compositor, I use a very special compositor, self-made, not by me, but by Matt, and I can show you what it looks like. It definitely makes a difference. It makes it look better. I'm just gonna bring it in here. I made a whole tutorial on this process, so you should check it out. But it's basically a compositor which makes everything look more realistic. And just have to bring it in here. Group, cinematic composite. Now when I turn on the compositor, it just gives me a little chromatic aberration. I can adjust the glare strength and maybe lens dirt, the camera grain I can add or remove grain, focal fall off. And when I go in those settings, this is basically what it looks like. Again, I have a whole tutorial how you can build this yourself, but also you can download this on my Patreon for free. Well, not for free, you have to be part of my Patreon, but yeah, and then you can get like a lot of cool effects like lens dirt and stuff like that, which is pretty sick. But yeah, and like glare strength and stuff like that. Yeah, I really enjoy this. And yeah, if you are ready to render, I go to my output, give this a folder where I want to render it to. Gauge dance, usually I just make a new folder, called 01 because I probably rendered more than once. Hit accept. I render an RGB, in this case RGB 16-bit, compression low, and it renders the composite, which is this, and then I go on render animation, and that it renders. And after this is rendered, I'm gonna have 250 frames of this animation. I'm gonna bring it into, in my case, DaVinci, but you can also do that in Premiere or After Effects. Then yeah, I just render one frame just to see how long it would take. This is not a very big scene, so it shouldn't take too long. 14 seconds. But yeah, this is what it would look like right now. Again, I'm not done with the scene yet. It's just beginning. But yeah, this is what it would look like. Oh, one thing I forgot actually. While I have you here on my camera settings, I usually also use depth of field. It's basically, oh, that's not it. With depth of field, you can have like, depth of field, like blurry background and stuff like that, which is always useful. So at some point, I'm just gonna put like maybe hanging ropes or something in the foreground where the camera's gonna pass through, and it's gonna look cool. But here under the object here, under focus object, I'm just gonna use the green screen dance. So now the green screen dance is in focus. And for example, right now you don't see it maybe as much, but let's say for example, I'm just gonna add I'm gonna make a curve, a Bezier curve. Let me get this Bezier curve into the foreground. Like here, in the edit mode, I'm making this really quick right now. Just want to make it like a cable, hanging cable from the ceiling. Um, Usually I would put more effort into this, but you get the idea once it's done. So I'm just gonna make a hanging cable where the camera is gonna pass through. Hold on. Okay, now I'm gonna go in my curve settings, geometry, extrude. No, it's not extrude. Hold on. Depth resolution. Is it? Uh, Maybe it is extrude. Let me see. No, extrude is just in one direction, and we want it to be depth. Oh yeah, there you go. Depth. That's the one. See, then I have some kind of foreground elements where the camera is going to be passing through. See, now you see how out of focus it is. Yeah, something like that. And yeah, I'm gonna have more of those or some kind of elements where the camera is going to be passing through, just to give it some extra detail. Yeah, you see those flares, the dirt and stuff like that. That comes from my composite here. You can turn it up or down. Pretty cool. Yeah. Anyways, that's it for this little live stream. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it and I answered the questions you might have had, or maybe not. Um, I'm trying to do more of those live streams in the near future, and yeah, you can see this scene in my YouTube shorts and my Facebook, like, because all my things are growing right now, so it's very exciting. So you can see this scene in my Facebook, Instagram, YouTube shorts. I don't know when. I'm not gonna be working on this today, probably tomorrow. So once it's done, you're gonna see it, and I'm very excited. Thank you guys so much for hanging